Hey, what's going on YouTube too? Sketchy coming at you with another Iron Harvest video, but this time we're going to be talking about the Rusviet faction. Due to the fact that we can't play them, but we can't play against them, I figured it was a good opportunity for us to go through not only their appearance, but also their, well, performance on the battlefield so far. Sketchy! So starting off, obviously the main difference between the other factions and the Rusviets are that the infantry are going to be wearing and or carrying semi-automatic shotguns, which is going to be able to let them get closer to you and pretty much burst you down. Aside from that, obviously aesthetically looking pretty junky in quotations. They have a more faceted, more junky-ish look and wear and tear on their overall aesthetic. Also, well, engineers, I figured I should spotlight the engineers because they have white beards. By the way, sub and like if you haven't yet. What? For the mechs. So starting off with the mechs here, we have the Kolokol. I fucked that up actually. It's Kolokol. K-O-L-O-K-O-O-L. You'll see. That's its name. It's a hell of a mech, let me tell you something. It's light armored and does really well against unarmored units, meaning clumps of units. As you can tell, it launches a grenade from the top of its hat. I don't know what you want to call that, but from the top of its little launching pad, it's throwing down grenades constantly, and it's a decent speed on it too. So it's going to be able to catch up to some of your infantry. And what I did here is actually I put a Shmiawa one-on-one versus a Kolokol, and you'd be surprised how much damage comes out of this guy. I'm very curious to how this is going to be utilized. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a tier 1 mech, so you're going to see this mech out pretty early on the battlefield. If it's not a tier 1, that is probably going to be tier 2, obviously. But seeing this thing roam the battlefield early is going to be pretty scary, especially the fact that you have a ton of infantry out early, you know? So if you're capping something, this thing is going to destroy you. Not only you, but its surrounding units as well, because, well, it does AoE damage, and it took out a Shmiawa with no problem. Next up, we have the Ogni, and, well, this is your flamethrower mech. It's medium armored and does really well against unarmored. Its only problem, and you can tell right now as I'm hiding my units behind cover, it cannot move and shoot at the same time. So you have to get positioned properly, you have to stop, and then you have to fire, and then within all this time, you can definitely pull out your infantry and just, you know, you'll be fine. Its main counter obviously is going to be anything that does armor damage, which are going to be gunners like this. Pretty easy to clean up. You take a significant amount of damage, however, I'd rather my infantry take a little bit of damage and then wipe your complete mech off the battlefield. Here again, you see a good example of how it shoots. So it stops, shoots, stops, shoots, and by the time it's done shooting, you're already surrounded at and or got the safety. And I don't know, I feel like this mech is going to be used really well against something stationary like a bunker. However, I think personally that this mech should at least somewhat walk slowly while it's shooting. That way it can at least, you know, close the gaps somewhat better than what it used to. What I did here also is I threw in some exoskeletons. Now, let me give you some advice. Do not use exoskeletons against these, I guess, light armored mechs. You'd be surprised at how fast you get these guys wiped off the map. I'm pretty sure that these light armored mechs are here to counter exoskeletons and not the other way around. The Kolokol himself is able to almost one-shot, if not two-shot, the exoskeletons. So back to the basics. Obviously, you're going to be using anti-armored infantry like the gunner or your anti-armored cannon, and that's going to be your bread and butter against these two mechs, both the Ogni and the Kolokol. I know, I kept fucking it up. Leave me alone, man. I was on the spot recording. Obviously the Ogni is going to be easy to deal with because, well, it has to get into position, so I don't think you ever see an Ogni step up to you like that, but gunners and AT cannons is going to be where it's at, for sure. So yeah, that pretty much covers the light armored mechs for Rusviets. I personally enjoy them. I like them. I like how rigid they are. I like how, not junky, but they have this sort of like junkyard feel to them, as if they were just kind of put together. I wonder if they're going to be cheaper or more expensive. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to wait and see how they do. So next up we have the beast, the Nagan. This thing is a medium armor and does well against heavy armor, but anything below heavy armor it does really well against, to be honest. I mean, it can destroy, absolutely destroy a lot of the units that I threw at it. And I love its design. It has this like bulldog kind of stance with its wheels in the back, almost like a tricycle, but the opposite of a tricycle. I really love its design. What I did was I threw a gunner squad, hoping, you know, armor, let's counter it. Don't do this. Don't ever do this. You get absolutely destroyed. The DPS out of the Nagan himself is absolutely crazy. It's so good. So then I was like, all right, let's see how a light armor does. Again, don't do this either. Don't throw a Shmiawa in front of a Nagan. The Nagan, I feel like, is the equivalent to a Botan, or I guess you could say a Lauka for Polania. It hits hard. It hits constantly. It's pretty well armored. I don't know what its abilities are. I love the way it's reloading its cannons or weapons up top. It's a really, really good mech. Obviously, the more Shmiawas you have, the better you'll do, but still, having that many Shmiawas to have to take out one of those guys, you know, that's an investment. What I found really successful was obviously a Lauka. Now, the Wofza, as she likes to say, the Lauka does really, really well. Not only is she going against the Nagan and a mortar unit, but she's able to withstand a lot of the damage. You see a lot of RNG in there. The Nagan's missing a hell of a lot. The projectiles are missing. There's no projectile on the Lauka. You can't really tell, but every single shot is hitting. None of them are missing. And right now, I even made it to the point where she's able to level up, so she steps up and she's going to use her spear ability, and that's easy peasy lemon squeezy, and she's only half health down while taking damage from a mortar as well. So Lauka is going to be where it's at if you want to go up against a Nagan for sure. So next up we have the Rusviet exoskeleton here. Light armored, really good versus unarmored. I'm going to assume that this exoskeleton is not ready yet. The only reason I say that, obviously there's a keyword in that description says that they have a jetpack and that they can jump, which I'm pretty excited for. I want to see mobility on this game a little bit more, and you know, utilizing that whole fantasy aspect of it being an alternate history. I threw in some not engineers, but grenadiers in here in melee, and being exoskeletons that are focused in melee, obviously they deal a lot of damage, but they're taking a decent amount as well. And I was actually surprised how much damage I was dealing. And for an exoskeleton to be focused on melee to take this long to be able to take care of a unit, obviously I would retreat him, and I doubt he's ever gonna get a kill. However, what I did do was throw an exoskeleton for Polania in there, and they completely demolished them. Even when they got close, there was no contest. So I'm going to assume that the exoskeletons for Rusviets aren't complete yet, or they haven't been balanced properly. So for now, we're just gonna have to hold off on them. I also threw in a gunner just to see how they do, and let me tell you, even the half health gunner with 1 veteran sea level did pretty well, pretty damn well actually, against the exoskeleton for Rusviets. So next up, obviously, here you go, a big old mech, big old Rusviet mech. This is going to be the equivalent to the Tor or the Kaiser from Saxony. This is called the, well, what is this called? Bulai Gorod, which is heavy armor and does well against medium armor. What I did was I sent in a squad of light armored Shmiawas just to see how it handles it. Obviously, this thing is massive, right? So, assuming this was a Kaiser or Tor, I don't think it would withstand this much firepower, but it did a hell of a job withstanding all of these guys. 5 Shmiawas is no joke at all. And now that I'm I have to reposition them, right? Now that I'm repositioning them, I'm trying to get some of that rear damage, and the rear damage isn't even that much. It's 78. That's like, decent. 3 to 4 Shmiawas are hitting it from its backside, and it's taking it forever to fall. And mind you, that in PvP, this situation will never happen. You're never going to be able to surround another player's Kolokol, whatever this name's mechs is. It's crazy. Here, however, we have a brand new mech called the Nakavanya. I don't know what that means. I don't speak Russian, so if anyone knows what that means, you're more than welcome to put that in the comment section down below. However, it is an artillery mech, and oh my god, the sound on this thing is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of RNG in this one, but when it does land, it lands hard. It's light armored, so it's pretty squishy. I have infantry focusing it rather than any mech. It's already at half health, but like I said, it hits hard. It hits so hard, in fact, that the next volley, which you will see in a second here, absolutely wipes on my train. And, well, see for yourself. I had to restart. Next up, we have this beautiful masterpiece, the Serp himself, heavy armored. Does really well against, well, pretty much anything. The only problem here, so it has a little minigun there. It's shooting at the Shmiawa. The only problem is it's really inefficient. It looks gorgeous. It looks cool. It's the way it's swung. It's massive scythe. Even hit the building. Here, it'll do it again. It'll kind of hit the building and the mech. Really cool, but it's really underwhelming. Power. It's 100 damage. And when are you ever gonna go toe-to-toe with a mech like this? Unless you fight into the death where both have like just a little bit of HP. Let's see who can win. It does 100 damage to the Shmiawa. It does 100 damage to the Slushnik. It does 100 damage to infantry. I put some engineers in front of him just to see what happens. The engineers are doing no damage whatsoever. There's literally zeros popping up. It's cool. Another cool thing what I did, I put some MG units inside of a building, and the way it was tearing through this building, I was just like, alright, this is pretty cool. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this is like something you see in a movie from like a Godzilla scene or something, where it just kind of tears through a building and tries to find a human and eat it. But I thought, alright, well, it's time to retreat here. The MG gunners don't do anything. You see a lot of zeros and ones pop up over that thing's head, so nothing spectacular. And it did a little less damage there as it swung onto those MGs. Here's obviously a good combo if you are ever against this thing, if we'll ever see this in multiplayer. A gunner, and then use its battle cry ability, and in support of the gunner, I also have a Mutzna in the back to be able to do some splash damage. This was the combination that I did really well with. Obviously, a Mutzna would do good. Other factions, for example, the Votan is going to do really well against this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the Rusviets that we're able to see from the beta campaign. So, what do you guys think? Which one sticks out the most? Which one do you think is definitely going to need some work? And maybe even in the comment section down below, since we don't know what their veteran abilities are, what do you think their veteran's ability should be? I love the jetpack on the exoskeleton, so we're going to have to wait and see. Until then, too sketchy out. Peace!